Hello, potential friends and adventurers. I'm Em, and today we are going to talk about 5 ways on how to spice up your monster. Welcome to the DM table. Well, sometimes it so happens that old monsters outgrow their usefulness in your campaign, or so it would happen, but we can spice them up. Those common wolves that your adventurers have been afraid of at the beginning because they were so strong in comparison to your beginner level adventurers, or whatever the equivalent is in a system without levels. Well, those wolves aren't so strong anymore. And well, before your party starts treating common monsters as if they were irrelevant, let's see how to give them a little bit more value, a little bit more story, a little bit more impact, a little bit more power, so that they can, well, live up to being something that adventurers fondly remember adventuring about. Sometimes it is good to let the adventurers steamroll over the monsters. After all, they have practiced for this, but sometimes you want to show something more interesting and surprise them a little. Show them that it's all in the turn of the battle, that they should be careful, that they should be cautious, and that they should be prepared. That is to say, this is how you will get monsters your party will respect, regardless of level and appearances, as long as they fit nicely. So let's begin. And mind you, all of these methods can be used without almost any preparation. In fact, they should be useful without any preparation. But sometimes if you want to prepare something ahead of time, you can. Just bear in mind that all of these can be used on the spot without any preparation before. So at number 1, just a little bit of a touch here and there. For example, you have a group of monsters. You have balanced well enough, but your party does away with them a little bit too easily. So you want to give them a little bit more of a feeling of the dungeon before they complain about the dungeon being weak. So the next group of the same monsters, well, you can, before the encounter begins, you can beef them up a little. Maybe these are not the average rats that they fought just before. They are a bit more veteran, grizzled rats. You know, maybe a few of them have scar across the eye or something like that, but in any case, a little bit more HP here and there, a little bit more maybe numbers on their prime stats, something or other, just a little bit of a variant to be natural, because not all animals are same in nature, so not all monsters of the same kind are exactly the same, so a little bit of a boost here and there. Show that they're a bit more hardened, if you will. A little bit more experienced, perhaps. A little bit tougher. Maybe mix them all up. Maybe there's few tough ones between the common ones, and they're not easy to tell apart until they feel that their swings are not killing as much as they were before. So apply as necessary. And this'll do for the common monsters well enough to spice them up a little bit. But what if we want something special? What if we really want to pressure the party before things escalate further into a later boss fight, and we want some good monsters, but somehow we haven't balanced quite well enough, and they're not reaching, they're not doing quite their job? Well, even if from lowest levels, from commonest monsters upwards, it's easy to introduce some more intriguing, shall we say, variants. Then we introduce some diseases or parasites or some such nasty little bits that they hide in their mouth, in their digestive tract, in somewhere, because that mangy wolf across the road isn't weak anymore if it can pass quite an unknown and dangerous disease. Or maybe, well, maybe even a quest can come off from this, so that can get players invested. After all, even if it's not too dangerous, just the sense of something happening to them that shouldn't have been happening to them, you know, their body being invaded and their stats being changed or something like that, that's already something that they'll remember. They won't think we got away without anything. They will think, good grief, we got away with it, but look what happened to us and it could have been worse, it could have been much worse. Sometimes psychological obstacles are more impactful than actual statistical obstacles, so do use those when opportunity arises. But of course, they can have fun stats and effects and so on. There can be lots of stuff that can be improvised here. And the best thing of all, it's not like they know ahead of time what hides in which monster, and if you use this trick a few times, it's not like your adventurers will be underestimating monsters anymore. If that's what they were doing before, they'll be intrigued, they'll be interested, they want to know what's waiting for them, what they can count on and what they can't count on. Those are really some spicy monsters at this point. Now let's get to number 3. If we're using non-magical diseases, parasites and so on, we can use enchantments and curses and hauntings and all kinds of supernatural stuff that happens commonly amongst the things wild and unexplored. Who knows what then comes off of it? After all, a common wolf, as we are using frequently here in the examples, can have had bitten a werewolf. Accidentally or deliberately, maybe werewolves are using wolves as guards here. At any rate, party might not know until, well, some of them turn under the full moon or something like that, because wolf has bitten them. But this is a bit of a sneaky thing to pull on them, so you can do something more obvious. But the thing is, again, they won't know until they try how tough the monsters are, and this will keep them on their toes. And not to mention, this will turn out to be potentially quite a legendary encounter if they figure out ahead of time or at some point that this is the kind of curses and diseases that they're dealing with, that it's no joke. Speaking of which, we can have at number 4 one-offs and legends, and well, it's like in Jack London novels. His protagonists were frequently, not always, but frequently, legendary animals. And what made them legendary is not that they could breathe fire or something, because it was usually a setting with perhaps no magic, but they were very full of willpower and intelligence, and they had an unquitting attitude that drove them towards their goals. And well, if you see such a legendary creature in action, you will know that it will do its best to present an incredible legendary challenge with whatever means it has. And of course, we can have it much more magical in a setting full of magic. So think of how one of those monsters that were common just the other day now have a pack leader that's full of powerful abilities that it gained through life, through exploration, through conquest, through ability to plan ahead and secure its freedom, its survival, its success in its goals and dreams. Well, if you haven't read such books, you could. They are very nice. And so a creature worthy of legend is born. You can send it at your players in between things or even as the main course. And finally, at number 5, let's now combine everything. What if it is a legendary creature leading a hardened group, full of support from supernatural forces? You can use tropes from horror books and movies and stuff. When creatures are possessed, or they're aliens masquerading as other creatures. You can have all kinds of supernatural unknown horror that has somewhat statted out abilities that you can plan and set into the action. Even though the creatures are in base normal creatures of their kind, they have been through a lot, and they are now as if they had a patron from these external forces, or maybe an anomaly has changed them, or maybe they are spirits haunting this place from thousands of years ago. In any case, you can mix all kinds of powerful things and situations into the mix to make the monsters truly stand out and be something to be really reckoned with. After all this, there is infinite options. They could be doing almost anything, being almost anyone. It can be even a humanoid, polymorphed and in disguise. Not necessarily even an alien. It can be a priest of an ancient faith. It can be anybody and anything, and You can improvise, don't forget, on the spot, adding touches where there were not so many before. After all, if you're announcing that the monster is powerful, you can behind the scenes adjust towards what previously happened in the dungeon and ramp it up. Have several stages of forms and abilities prepared if you want, or just go in without preparation and ramp it up by clues, by hints, and finally by presence of the final boss of the dungeon. And there you go. Spicing up your monsters was easy when we thought that we can actually, as a DM, do pretty much anything. And as long as it's nice, as long as it's fun, as long as it's cool, well, it's cool. So, if you thought this was unique adventure, maybe you can spare me a click. I could see you here next and perhaps every week. And if you have some questions, feel free to ask me. Until then, bye.